Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday gathering for Sk'aliCh'elh-tenaut's Legacy, where we meet each and every week, continuing to meet for multiple reasons, for the orcas in captivity, for the breaching of the dams, for the orcas in the wild, just continuing to meet to spread education and awareness. So thanks for being with us. Let's just do some quick check-ins, and then I want to introduce you guys to our guests for today. So Deb Cruz, how are you?
It's a pretty troubled time for us and for a lot of other people and for some of our other relatives. And so just prayers of healing out to everyone.
That seems to be the theme for today for sure. Stephanie, how are you doing?
Yeah, well said, Deb. I don't have a really good voice again today, so but happy to be here. And yes, quite a sad and tumultuous time. So prayers.
Yeah. Christina?
Yeah.
Well, come on, guys. But it is. I mean, there's a lot going on. And so it's okay. It's okay because that's the kind of space that we're all in. Alma, how are you today?
Yeah, it's very intense right now. A lot of dolphinariums, aquariums shutting down. So there's good stuff happening, and then we have stuff happening in the wild that is not exactly good news. So a lot to talk about and share with the world.
Would you mind a little later to kind of talk to us a little bit in detail about what's going on there in the Keys? Because I know there's some stuff going on, so maybe we could touch on that just a little bit, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, so we have this very disturbing behavior by at least 53 different species of fish going on, mostly concentrated in the lower Keys, where fish are whirling and spinning until they die. There's several organizations working on it. A lot of scientists have collected hundreds of samples of fish and water. They've ruled out parasites. They've ruled out any major disease. The only thing that they can find so far is it's a dinoflagellate, which is a single-celled algae that is toxic when it reaches high numbers. And it's also linked to ciguatera, which is deeply disturbing because that cuts out the ability for any of us to eat the seafood. It works its way up the food chain. So we're seeing the critically endangered small-toothed sawfish dying off at an alarming rate. I think we've lost at least 25 when I think the number was below 300 to begin with.
Wow.
So, there's a few novel findings that the scientists have discussed so far, and I'm curious to know what that is going to be. There's some speculation that it could be some injection wells, sewage basically, that is finally, coming to a head. But that's just speculation on my part, really, and other people. But so far, it's just this algae is all we know, and it's, we're all deeply disturbed by it. So
we'll keep some tabs on that if you can, and keep us updated. Maybe do some posts because that's it's a little scary.
It is.
Deborah, how are you?
Am I muted?
Nope, you're good.
Oh, okay. The same as everybody. I'm having a hard time keeping my heart calm and balanced and grounded. So picking up everybody's energy all around. Just keep in mind, friends, we got to just keep praying and keep being grounded, because this rock and roll ride is just going to get rockier and rockier. And we have to do everything and anything to be the prayer warriors that we've been tasked to be. So just keep going. Even if it's one breath at a time, we just keep going.
Thank you. There's a lot of comments coming in, and Bill is our special guest today, and we're going to get to him in just a bit. But before we get started with that, a lot of comments about Spong in the chat, and as we all know, Spong, one of the T's, T109A3, passed away yesterday, and her 2-year-old calf is, to my knowledge, has not been reunited with the rest of the pod or the family yet. If you guys have not heard about that, I'll just share real quick a post that Orca Network did just yesterday morning. We sat in complete heartbreak at the unimaginable situation with T109A3 Spong. We're all just gutted by her death and the trauma that little 2-year-old has experienced and now is left motherless. We extend our deepest and heartfelt gratitude to all who provided such care and worked so diligently to keep Spong alive, and to those responding and staying on scene to help the calf, who we hold in our hearts and thoughts, and pray for the best possible outcome of rejoining their extended family. We hold Spong deep in our hearts, in love and light. And that was a statement put out this morning. We have with us today Florence, and I'm going to mute some other folks just so we don't get too much feedback. But Florence is with us today in last minute, so thank you very much for being willing to be on with us. Florence's fiance, Kyle Harry, sang her home yesterday, and we're gonna share that, talking about Spong, sang Spong home after she passed. And so Flo, do you mind to kind of, if it's okay with you, to share with us just a little bit about where you guys are, and how your fiance sang maybe the name of the song, and give us a little bit of the meaning, and then we'll go ahead and share that with everyone.
Okay. So I'm with Kyle Harry, his fiance. We live in Sk'aliCh'elh-tenaut's, the reserve here in Zabalis on the west coast of Vancouver Island. And what was the other part? Sorry.
No, just how your fiance got involved yesterday. Because he was there with Spong, with the orca, and everyone who were trying to save her. If you could just kind of recap for those that don't know, maybe just a short recap of what happened.
Yesterday, my fiance woke up at 8:30, and he was scrolling through his Facebook, and he noticed that our chief here of Ihadissit was posting about the whale being beached, and they needed help. So I heard him talking, and I like to sleep in, but I was like, wait, did he just say a beached whale at the causeway? And he's like, I'm gonna go out there. I was like, no, I'm coming with you. I was like, I feel in my heart that I need to come with you. And we got there. It's a 10-minute ride from where we are on our reserve to the causeway, they call it, or Little Espinosa. And we got there, and there was the leadership of Ihadissit, including the chief and our administrator and some of the council. And as we got out of the car, the admin was saying, we need everyone out who can help us to get us to try and push her over on her tummy. We need it now. And I was like, okay, you ain't got to ask me twice. And everyone had hip waders except for like 2 of us. And I was one of them. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go in. Don't even worry about me, hun. I need to help. And it was so very powerful. I got there, I touched her, and I was like, come on, mama, you can do this. And then I got very emotional because the baby's right there waiting for mommy. And there was also a seal in her mouth or around her, so we believe that she was hunting and probably hit the soft spot of the beach. and we did everything we could. It was very powerful. Like before her last breath, she was moving her tail like crazy. There was a picture actually, and I'm standing away from her because the tail was so powerful. And she was fighting for, like, just giving her all. Like, I was like, okay, I'm going to get hit. I needed to back off. And she splashed my back. I was like, wow. And I was like so upset because she was trying so hard that her tail was bleeding. And then I guess her face must have been bleeding too because there was blood. And it was so upsetting, but it was like so powerful. And I was very thankful to be a part of that. And Kyle was too. So when they said that we're sorry she's gone, I just start crying. And our counselor, she's a very beautiful lady, Darcy Kerr. She started crying and she was touching her face and saying a prayer. And then we made our way across the river because I knew the tide was coming up, that I heard the clam diggers, because they clam dig there, it can get pretty strong. And me, I'm a big woman. I was almost getting pushed that way. And I was like, hey, I can't go to the baby. So I was just like making my way up, and I was up to my hips. And I got to the road and everyone was conversating. And that's when the two people asked Kyle to honor the whale and sing. And he had his rattle ready because he felt in his heart before we left home, I should grab my rattle. I'm probably going to be requested to sing. And he said, I won't sing unless I'm requested to. And I said, okay, sounds good. You take it. And sure enough, he was asked. So he chose to sing his prayer song. And it's Sk'aliCh'elh-tenaut's, and it's thank you is Sk'aliCh'elh-tenaut's is the chief, and that's a high honor word. And he came up with that song. He told me when he was becoming sober, he was sitting by the river and it came to his heart and he started singing it. And now he shares that whenever he's requested. And it's gone viral.
Oh, I'm sure. We're gonna, I just want to ask everyone, take a couple of deep breaths. We're gonna share the song. And then we will, of course, be in silence as we listen, and just know that she was saying home. So everyone go ahead and just take a couple of deep breaths, and then we'll go ahead and share that video with you now. Thank you. And I'll go ahead and unmute everyone. And thank you to Kyle and Florence for coming on today and sharing that moment with us. It's important that we do pause in moments like this to acknowledge life, and acknowledge our Sk'aliCh'elh-tenaut's and continuing to fight for, the environment and Mother Earth, and to take care of these beautiful beings. There's some reports. I know there's a lot of agencies who are out there looking for the family. There's some reports that a grandmother might be nearby. I don't have any solid proof of that, but I know that there's some reports going around about that. And let's hope that this baby can get reunited with those that can take care of her and continue on for Spong. So our hands are raised to you, Florence. And to Kyle, thank you very much for joining us. You are welcome to hang with us for the rest of the show. It was a very last minute request, and I appreciate you coming on to share with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. We had Bill scheduled to be with us today, and Bill, thank you for being patient with us. And I mean, we're all here for the same reason. So I know you don't mind. But Bill, I'm really happy to have you. I'm scrolling through my stuff to get your bio. I'm so sorry. I had like 10 different screens.
No, that's no big deal.
10 different screens open.
I want to just say thank you, Florence, for that, sharing that, and how powerful that is, and your story around it. I just really appreciate you bringing that into this space, and it's an honor. And thank you. I just want to tell you how much that means to be able to that you share that with us. So thank you, and please give my appreciation to your loved ones and your fiance there for his, and thank him for his song, please.
Yes, I will. And I'm sorry, I have to go, but I really appreciate, and I'm happy to be here. And I really feel connected to you guys, and I appreciate your guys' hard work. Like, we just met, and I feel it feels really powerful what you guys are doing, and I am happy to share what I just shared. And thank you for also having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Florence. And we're all connected. We all get put in each other's paths sometimes in hard situations, but it's for a reason. So we'll have you back on, and we'll stay connected.
Yes. Thank you, guys, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bill spoke at the March 11th event, and Bill Moyer is the executive director of the Backbone Campaign, co-author of the book Solutionary Rail, and leads the Solutionary Rail campaign. So how can train save salmon, Bill. I mean, we have a lot to talk about, but I saw
Yeah,
that sign at the rally, and I'm like, what? How do we do
yeah,
that?
yeah. Yeah, well, thank you very much, and I appreciate being asked to be here. It was also a pleasure to speak at the rally, and thanks for all your organizing. You know, I watched the show a few weeks back with when Karen Davis was on as a guest, and similar to Karen, I feel very inspired by, was very moved by TokiTV and her powerful vision and vigil with her deceased calf. So it's great to come into this circle and be able to share, you know, a way that I'm doing my best to contribute to this issue. As folks know, that the southern resident orca are particularly dependent upon Chinook salmon that come from the Snake River, Columbian Snake River. And so Backbone Campaign has done a lot of support for actions related to dam removal on the Snake, in specifically things like if you've seen light projections on the dams, or inflatable orca or salmon and used in the protests, or human murals, orca murals, or giant banners, or kayaks on the water. Almost every one of those things are things that Backbone Campaign, our artful activism organization, has had a hand in. I'm part of a large network of folks who are artful activists, and I'm very grateful and for their collaboration and all their hard work. And they make all of this possible. Over the last 10 years, Backbone Campaign has gotten involved in rail. And so our involvement in the issue of the Snake River evolved, it became clear to me that maybe we could bring something special or unique, you know, applying lessons we're learning, and kind of do a deep dive into rail as part of the solution. So if you don't mind sharing the slides, I would appreciate that. Thank you. So I know that this is probably more slides than we're going to be able to go over in our time, so I'm not going to take a bunch of time with each one. But I want to say that, you know, I think that that in general, in these very polarized times, when so much of the politics appeals to the worst in people, and there's so much we're going to beat you just through power against power, or party politics, I feel like it's possible also to that we actually have greater opportunities to deliver a future where farmers and salmon thrive, tribes and orcas, we all thrive. If we present a vision that people see themselves in, and we appeal to the best in people rather than the worst in them. And I think that I'm inspired to say that, honestly, because I've also had experiences with the people in Southeast Washington. And I was told more or less that most people, as far as this person could tell, would like farmers and salmon both to thrive. So there was a lot of rail in Southeast Washington, and I should get actually a little background. We published the book Solutionary Rail in 2016, out after being involved in a lot of the protests against fossil fuel export through the Pacific Northwest. We were challenged to green a proposal for improving the Northern Transcon, which is the rail corridor from Chicago to the Pacific Northwest. And it was in that process that we have learned a great deal about rail. And so I started looking at the old part, the 1928 map of what existed. And this line here, I'm not sure if you see my mouse on the screen, but this is the Snake River. And this is down here at the bottom left corner is Pasco and the Tri-Cities. So you can see that all of these colored lines, those are all railroads. So there was a lot of rail in that part of the country that was active in 1928. You can, as if you drive through that countryside, you can see these raised berms where the tracks were, or the grade for the rail was established. Some of them, there's no longer trains on it. There was even electric intercity rail over there. It wasn't even that long ago that in Washtenaw, a very small place in the middle of the region north of the Lower Snake River in Washington State, there was an intersection between Burlington Northern and Union Pacific. Neither one of, there's no track on the bottom now, and the track above is now called the Columbia Plateau Trail, and we'll get into that more later. So when Burlington Northern abandoned a very important rail corridor through that region, it was rail banked, and rail banking is supposed to include the potential for not just depositing, but withdrawing rail when future generations need it. So the state acquired the land there, and and farmers and conservatives and liberals alike, progressives alike, wanted to acquire the rail. So when the short line railroads were about to fail on the Palouse, Kathy McMorris Rogers and others put partisanship aside to make sure that we saved the PCC system. So now I'll jump to just looking at the river itself, and each section of the river handles various amounts of the grain that's going down on the barges, and the two top sections take the most. The equivalent of annually at the average is 2.5 million tons of grain as a 10-year average, and so on that top section of the river, that's half of that stuff is coming from the Camas Prairie in Idaho, and the rest of it is coming from the Washington side. I'd say most of this the wheat I'm not going to get too in the weeds here. I'll try to put a link in the chat so people can go and find this information themselves. But I'll keep rolling here. There are places along the river where trucks drive down and they bring the wheat and they load onto barges, and those elevators. Some of those elevators already have rail service, and that is LC Terminal, Port of Wilma, Central Ferry, and actually Lyons Ferry has not the wheat area, but the pulp, a place called Columbia Pulp, has a rail service that could pretty easily be extended to the elevators. It's really important, very, very important, that people know that there is a railroad along the Snake River from Lewiston. It crosses the river after Lyons Ferry, and it hands off the trains, or it does what's called an interchange. It delivers the trains to Union Pacific or BNSF, which then take those trains and take them elsewhere. I believe that's primarily how they do it. It's not easy to have a conversation with the railroad operators there in this area, because they're not supposed to talk about, literally, they've been told not to talk to anybody about dam removal and whether or not they could move wheat. But this Great Northwest Railroad is an excellent railroad, and it's got excellent infrastructure that was repaired and improved at the time that the dams were put in. One thing folks should really know about railroads is that even though they've been deregulated for the last 45 years to a certain extent, they're still considered critical national infrastructure, and they have a special relationship. They don't just do anything they want to. They actually still have a common carrier obligation to serve grains, fossil fuels, and some hazardous materials. So this railroad is currently moving, fertilizer and wood and lumber and pulses or lentils and these sorts of crops that are not traveling on the river. They're moving about 1 train a day. That railroad has a common carrier obligation to provide reasonable service at a reasonable rate to move wheat. Nobody's talking about that. And even the CRSO, Columbia River System, and I forget what the acronym stands for, but the 2020 Environmental Impact Study, if you dig deep into it, and I will provide a link to that, Appendix L, Annex A, states that the early modeling, where they included rail along the river, showed that there would be very little, or if any, increase in truck miles, and no significant increase in the price of shipping. That's pretty important, because what they did, then they decided, oh, we can't have that in the final document. So they decided to not include, because it's not currently carrying wheat, they decided, oh, then we don't have to include it in the modeling for if the barges aren't at the river, which is absolutely insane and corrupts all of the data and creates talking points that are completely fictional about what would happen if there's a drawdown and the locks stopped operating. Everybody who's coming to the river would continue coming to the river. That railroad that takes 1 train a day, I know this is a little bit complex to see on a screen, but here's the Port of Lewiston on the far right of this graph. Here's Ayer Junction. This is where the trains connect with Union Pacific and BNSF. And on the left, there's hours of the day. What this is showing you is basically a loaded train coming from Lewiston. If you start at the bottom, a loaded train going down track from Lewiston would get to Ayer in about 2 hours and 15 minutes. We have about an hour to change over, and then it would take an empty train upslope, back up to Lewiston, etc. So it could easily do 3 trains a day, and it's currently doing 1 train a day. The total volume of the river, the 2.4 to 2.6 million tons, is the equivalent of about 500 car trains per week. So that's less than 100 car train per day. Now, you could have shorter trains, but there's plenty of room on the track to do 3 trips, and that's without passing. There's actually at a place called Riparia, there is a siding where trains could pass. And so this is not an issue. All of these major terminals are already served by rail. Lewis and Clark Terminal is served by rail. That's what these are, tracks. Wilma, the Port of Wilma, it's owned by the Port of Whitman County. It has tracks. It has really good tracks. Actually, they've done extra work to improve that system there. And it could, I'm sure, the other work would need to happen. Things would need to be built out to orient, instead of to the river, to the tracks. But it could happen. Central Ferry has track. Lyons Ferry has track very nearby. This is Columbia Pulp, facility that went bankrupt. The rail of Great Northwest Railroad goes right by it, and across this highway is the barge loading facility and the elevators. This is a pit right here. This dark spot is a pit. There could be a bridge. The rail is elevated rail track that just comes right across over here, or other ways around it. Anyway, the point being is wheat that goes to the river could still go to the river, and it, instead of getting onto barges, it could get onto trains. And there's plenty of capacity there. The railroad has a common carrier obligation to provide that service, and the modeling that tells us that ignores that is corrupting. It should not be believed, and we should not believe people who participate in do studies and include that kind of corrupting misinformation in the study. So I'm very concerned about the Washington State study potentially being working with the same people as who did this last study, and I'm not sure who did it, but I suspect that folks at Washington State University might have been involved in this, because their orientation is not toward short lines. Their orientation is toward what we call the Class 1 railroads. So we'll get into that now. What are the Class 1 railroads? The Class 1 railroads are the gigantic monopolistic railroads: Union Pacific, BNSF, CSX, Norfolk Southern, Canadian National, Canadian Pacific, or now it's Canadian Kansas City, whatever, Kansas City National. And they have been deregulated since 1980, and they spun off all of these little branch lines that they didn't want to serve anymore. But instead of making them free actors that are contained and can do their own business, these small railroads, called short line railroads, are connected and dependent upon those very same big railroads. So now we're going to move up onto the Palouse, the plateau. On the Washington side, there are these two railroads, the one in lavender and the one in yellow. They're called the PCC and the SP&S. Those are the Spokane, Spangle, and Palouse is a railroad operator. They are running on Washington State-owned tracks. These are the tracks that I mentioned before, part of what we call the PCC system that the Washington State bought in 2004. This yellow confusingly, the PCC Railroad. It's owned by the same company that owns the Great Northwest Railroad. It's called Watco. It's a conglomerate. It runs on this yellow track. It runs down towards the river, and it also delivers trains to Ayer, to Union Pacific primarily, and probably exclusively. The Spokane, Spangle, and Palouse heads north towards Spokane to a place called Marshall, and it delivers trains to BNSF. Both of these short railroads, they collect the wheat by truck and by small train, and they bring it to what they call shuttle facilities, and that's what these orange dots are: McCoy and Endicott. At those places, they're completely dependent upon Union Pacific or BNSF to provide locomotives and big hopper cars. And then they load up those hopper cars and then they deliver them to their Class 1. They do not have the choice to cross over here and make competition with Union Pacific and BNSF, et cetera. They're captured. They have no future hope of growing their business. But being dependent upon Union Pacific and BNSF, any Class 1 railroad, is not good, because these are monopolies. They don't even really care about these shorter trips. Whatever that is from there to the coast is not their ideal trip. Their ideal trip is 750 miles. They want to make a lot of money moving one thing a long ways. They've already abandoned certain types of service. They can't legally abandon wheat service, but they can provide poor service. So after 2 years of really digging into this, we've come up with a proposal that we think is good for farmers and takes their weight, it creates competition in a system so that they aren't dependent upon barges. Our proposal is that there be a short line corridor so that trains operating on this eastern portion of the state-owned track and trains operating on this other portion, the PCC and this, I'll say it's the SP&S, or it's actually called the P&L. that they be joined, and there be 8 miles of track is all we need. And there's a abandoned corridor between Rosalia and Thornton. And then there's 8 miles of track, of abandoned track that's not owned by the state, that would have to be joined from Hooper to Washtenaw. And then that rail bank section that I talked about from Burlington Northern, or BN, that is a trail. It's a very terrible trail. It's very popular with rattlesnakes, but the popular part of the trail is up for horse communities up near Cheney and Marsh, up there. Down here, it's not so popular. So this Columbia Plateau Trail is an excellent rail bed. It's never more steep than 0.8%, less than a foot per 100 feet of grade. That's a really important thing when it comes to rail. The gradual slopes are important. So that is about 58 miles, 8 of which already has track, but 50 miles of which would need new track and ties, and probably slide protection, and the new track and ties here at that 8 miles, and new track and ties up here in the Rosalia to Thornton area. And I'm not going to go through, but we've already done like initial sort of conceptual engineering drawings on how that would tie in, both in Thornton and both in Rosalia. Also the route from Washtenaw to Hooper, where it would connect to the Columbia Plateau Trail. Here's a picture of trains on that, on the Columbia, what's now the Columbia Plateau Trail. There are steel trestles along that way, along that 58-mile section. They are repairable and affordable to repair at approximately $1 million per trestle. There are 3 that have suffered some fire damage, but they're in good shape. They've been inspected by a bridge inspector, rail track inspector. Where the fire, it has caused warping. We've already gotten an estimate on how that could be repaired. There's a group in Sk'aliCh'elh that does rail bridge repair. They take out the heat and straighten sections of steel bridge and structure. When this rail rolls in to East Pasco, there's a 597-acre section that is owned by and more. There's actually more up here that you can't see that ties into another location. Anyways, 700 acres of Department of Natural Resources, Washington State owned land. So we already own from the very beginning to the very end, practically, of this system. This system, this is just, we don't need to get into that. There's a safe and better entrance potentially for trucks to be delivering wheat to this area. The short line railroads could come in here. They could interchange and connect with BNSF Railroad and continue on to the ports, but they could also access Columbia River barges that would still be, even with the Snake River dams taken out, this would be a barge loading facility. And currently it's Tri-Cities Grain is right here, and a Tidewater barge facility is right here. So anyway, safer access, state-owned land, something that's completely doable from beginning to end, and it probably be able to be done for less than $250 million. This is not rocket science. This is not too hard to do. This is not too expensive. This is great infrastructure to allow competition and allow farmers to be able to get reliable service from short line railroad operators. And one of the things that's super cool, and this graph or spreadsheet is a bit confusing, but basically one of the cool things about this is that from Pasco to Washtenaw or to Rosalia is about a 1,600-foot elevation change. That means that empty trains go from the up slope, and they get filled up, and full trains come down slope. Now, everybody thinks about like regenerative braking in their Prius or the Tesla as something new. It is not new. Railroads have been doing regenerative braking since 1919. Once we had 759 miles of electrified rail in Washington State alone. We electrified the Cascades Tunnel in, I think, 1909 or 1904. I'm a little foggy. And GE built the first electric locomotive that is able to do regenerative braking, meaning put power back into the lines from the braking when it's going downhill. They did that in 1919 approximately. So this system could not just be an excellent system that saves salmon, it could also potentially be a zero energy, like infinity, what they call an infinity train, where it uses actually zero or close to no energy net, because it's replacing the energy. If we put on battery electric locomotives, the state could purchase battery electric locomotives, lease them to operators, and even Pasco could then become a center for the maintenance of battery electric locomotives and electric locomotives, as that becomes an important part of decarbonizing our freight system. This is not, we're not dreaming about this stuff. These are the advanced battery locomotives are being put into use now. And so I'm going to put in a link for how in the next legislative session, what are the demands that we should be putting towards the legislature to make this, to invest in the system right away, not to wait until 2026 for another study after study after study. That's all bullshit. We do not have to wait for another study. This stuff has been studied to death. It had to be studied when we bought it. It had to be studied at every stage. We know exactly what's happening here, and all we need to do is do it. And this is going to make, and if we start investing in the system, this is good regardless of what happens on the river. But it is especially important to have this sort of system in place when the stuff changes at the river, because just because folks can still go down and put their wheat on the Great Northwest Railroad, absolutely, we do not have to delay. Still, creating competition is important to allowing farmers to thrive, as well as salmon and tribes. So that's my pitch, and I'm free. I want to stop sharing the screen and ready to answer questions.
Wow. Yeah, seriously. Oh, let me unmute the clapping here so that people can speak. I mean, you've done the work. Work's done. You've done the work. You're talking. I mean, I'm hearing you talk about, like, the cost is figured out, so the price is there. The inspections have been done. There's estimates on what it's going to cost. Safer access, state-owned land, and saving the salmon. I mean, come on, and it's a win. There's a win-win, like win-win-win. I think I heard 4 wins, right, actually in what you're talking about. So let's see if the people viewing have any questions. A lot of support coming in, like, wow, great presentation. Some people want to know, are there already who's already behind this in terms of politicians and organizations? Do you have anyone who's supporting this in that area?
Sadly, I wish I could say yes. I wish I could say this is, we're on track and moving forward. But the politics around this is so toxic. We saw it when and party politics. I just am so sick of party politics. When Mike Simpson had his plan, instead of just having his back and moving it forward and saying hoorah, Inslee and Murray had to come up with their own plan, so that's toxic. And then the lack of imagination, which I think is really in every fight that we find ourselves in, is fundamentally what we're engaged in. And Diane DePrima, the poet Diane DePrima, has a poem called Rant, and one important stanza in that is, the only war that matters is the war against the imagination. She says it 3 times. The only war that matters is the war against the imagination, etc. All other wars are subsumed in it. All the failure of imagination, that we've got people stuck in this idea that we have to be serving the class 1 railroads, building shuttle facilities for Union Pacific and BNSF. We've got to be able to instill. We've got to be able to awaken people's imagination, and part of that is by calling bullshit on this stuff around the common carrier obligation of Great Northwest to have to provide service, and also the dependence on BNSF and Union Pacific as a very unhealthy situation for farmers and the wheat co-ops. And I think it's hard for politicians. Nobody wants to be embarrassed, right? No, I don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to be embarrassed. Politicians are so allergic to being embarrassed. We've got to help them feel confident. And that means we have to walk them through the learning curve so they feel confident in this. And so it's going to take a large effort to do that, and to deconstruct the propaganda, the disinformation we're getting from the other side. I would like to know how Inslee, I would love to be in front of Inslee. The other thing we've got a problem with, honestly, is that some of the nonprofit leaders of this fight against the dams are in front of Inslee. They are intimately involved in the Inslee Murray stuff, and they have access to that table. This is my assessment of them. I'm who am I, but I think they're so afraid of embarrassing or offending. And a Backbone Campaign is not the group that's gonna check ourselves, right? That is not our style. They don't want me, Solutionary Rail, Backbone Campaign at the table. Because I think they're so interested in protecting their access to the table that they're failing to actually provide good information to the decision makers, and they don't create the creative tension that forces creative problem solving. And I feel like that is a problem. And so as long as those organizations get to just freely pretend to be representing us but exclude these ideas from the conversation, like they continually have done, right? Jim Waddell, the late Jim Waddell, they had nothing good to say about Jim. Where was Jim? Why wasn't Jim Waddell at the table, right? So I'm a little. It gets my. I think we got to stand up to these folks and say, hey, you got to quit defending your own access and your own and make room for other people and other solutions, and let's get this going and quit being quit kissing ass for the political parties, and let's make some solutions here.
That's awesome. Right on. Deb Cruz is muted, but I'll clap out loud for her.
Let's breach some dams. I mean, seriously, the solutions are there. Also, the other thing about the wheat is Julian Matthews, he mentioned that, it's not really sustainable, and it's not organically grown. So a lot of that pesticides going off into the river, and also most of it is being shipped overseas. So it's not like it's even, so
you're opening up, I think, a whole other can of worms here, but I don't think it's. But yeah, this is your show. You can do anything you want. But I think it's worth having that conversation. But I think providing, to me, one of the things I love about dealing with infrastructure and rail, because of its efficiency and its potential for electrification, is that it's also, by restoring rail, reconnecting rural communities, I think we start to create the infrastructure for localization. I think we start to create the infrastructure for different economies, and And I don't think we can expect people to make that jump. I don't think we're going to convince the farmers in Southeast Washington to make that they need to make that transition in time to save the salmon or the orca, right? So let's put in infrastructure that serves that fundamental, that's going to be there for another 100, 200, whatever years, and let's open up those questions, because I think they're right. I think that I was thinking today, one of the things I hate about the immigration debate is like, what is it? This non-existent, there's no, right? The death of American hospitality. Now it's razor wire, and what we really need is welcoming communities. What we really need is more people on the land in communities that have been hollowed out by neoliberal capitalism that's basically shifted an infrastructure that was a circulatory system into a corridor for globalization. And I think we've got an opportunity to build an infrastructure for localization, to be opening communities and saying, hey, Washtenaw, wouldn't it be cooler if you had more people working the land and selling that stuff closer by, or we had transportation options to get it there so that your town could be alive again, rather than having the farms be bigger and bigger, run by fewer and fewer people, growing fewer and fewer crops, and then exporting it, and then all the So I think you're right on track. I think there's a sequence to having these conversations.
Totally. I just, it's just because I think that the solutions are there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the documentary to see what's hidden and why Inslee and Murray are, can't be imaginative or whatever, like you said, because something else, don't you think something else is up with that? Because there's solutions, there's all so something is up, right? They just can't be worried about their, failure.
Yeah.
Which I don't think so. Yep. But
Yeah.
I want to see you talk to Inslee. Let's go. We'll talk to him together.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm game for it. I'm trying to share a link in the chat. I can't access the main chat with a link. I think that's probably not allowed. Okay, cool. And then there are some other links I'd like to share. One specifically is of a one sheet that is that speaks, I think, the language of people that doesn't assume that they're on our side in regards to dam removal, but it offers talking points for and on the second page is what the state should be funding in terms of study, et cetera. So if you don't mind sharing those from the chat to the comments, I sure appreciate it.
Got it. I'm working on that right now.
Cool. And then people, please go to backbonecampaign.org to look at our artful activism stuff, or solutionaryrail.org if you're interested in transportation and how, electrification and, for rail in the public interest is what I would call it. And I think removing the dams and providing short line rail service in Southeast Washington is just in the public interest. Sure.
All right, there we go. I got some of those links. So we're showing them, and then they're also linked so for the folks on Facebook, you can just click the link. For anyone watching, because we have about half our viewers on YouTube, you can shoot me a request and I'll send this link over directly to you, because that's a lot to copy. Trying to figure out a better way to do that. Bill, thank you so much. We can go on, and I kind of feel like we should. I feel like we should have you back on, because if we were to highlight each of those points, like we said, it's a quadruple win. We were to talk just about the price, if we were to talk just about what actually needs to be done, if we were to talk about the safer access, that could be a whole show. I think we should highlight some of these areas that this plan could benefit, and it could just be one person sharing this this show with someone who needs to hear it. And if we need to create some more campaigns, it sounds like you and Christina are already talking about doing that. I mean, this it's got to get out there. There's just too many. I know for our purposes on the show, you know, we care about the species that this is impacting. And Alma, can we go ahead and kick this over to you to talk about that, the species that we and Bill, we're going to have you come on because we definitely need to talk more. I don't know if you've talked to John Carlos Ray, who's doing the documentary on the dams. If you haven't, let's put you in touch with him so you can talk to him. I mean, there's just someone mentioned that in the comments. Like, if you haven't talked to him, we'd like you to. A lot of solutions you have come up with.
Yeah, we were supposed to talk, so I need to check in with him. So
okay,
yeah, that
cool.
would be great.
Yeah,
yeah.
Would be really
I've got a haul compost now, so I'm gonna have to exit. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks for being with us.
Right.
And Howard, I mean, Howard said you've been doing the research and the studies that the feds should have been doing this whole time. You've done it. So thank you, Bill, for all your work.
Well, I've relied on a lot of cool people, and I'm grateful for everybody. Thank you, everybody. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Take care. Bye.
Alma, let's talk about our species that we're highlighting this week. Just to remind folks of what we're doing each and every week. And Alma, thank you for getting us the information we need.
You're so welcome. Wow, Bill, that was incredible. What a wealth of information he is. So here we are. These are the 137 species that are impacted by lack of salmon along the lower Snake River dams. And that's why we need to breach them. These are all incredible species that have all just unique, cool things about them. And we're just trying to highlight those to educate people about these species. So we have the sooty shearwater. The sooty shearwater, also known as the mutton bird, is a fascinating seabird that undertakes one of the longest migrations of any bird species. These birds travel up to 40,000 miles in a single year. Wow. Flying from their breeding grounds in the southern hemisphere to feeding grounds in the northern hemisphere and back again. They are known for their remarkable navigation abilities, which allow them to find their way across vast ocean distances.
Barrow's goldeneye. They are named after Sir John Barrow, a 19th century British Admiralty official and geographer. These ducks are skilled divers and can dive up to 60 meters deep in search of food, such as aquatic invertebrates and small fish. Barrow's golden eyes are known for their courtship displays, which involve males bobbing their heads and making whistling sounds to attract females. They are migratory birds breeding in Northern America and wintering along the Pacific and Atlantic coasts.
All right, the bank swallow. One fascinating aspect of bank swallows is their social behavior. These birds are highly social and often nest in large colonies, sometimes consisting of hundreds or even thousands of individuals. This communal nesting behavior helps them protect their nest from predators and allows them to share information about food sources. Bank swallows undertake long-distance migrations, traveling thousands of miles between their breeding and wintering grounds. During migration, they navigate using a combination of visual landmarks, the sun, and Earth's magnetic field. Smart little guys.
Oh, yes. I don't know what it Bonaparte's. Bonaparte's? Gull. Sorry, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Unlike many other gull species, the Bonaparte's gulls are known to nest in colonies with their bird species such as terns and cormorants. This behavior is believed to provide additional protection for their nests from predators. Additionally, these gulls have been observed engaging in a behavior known as kleptopartism, where they steal food from other seabirds in flight. This behavior is more commonly associated with larger gull species, making it intriguing that the smaller Bonaparte's gulls exhibit this behavior as well.
Peregrine falcon. Peregrine falcons are one of the world's fastest birds, capable of reaching speeds over 240 miles per hour or 386 kilometers per hour when diving to catch their prey. This incredible speed makes them exceptional hunters in the skies. While peregrine falcons are commonly associated with cliffs and rocky outcrops, they've adapted well to urban environments. They can be found nesting on skyscrapers and tall buildings in cities, taking advantage of the urban landscape for hunting opportunity.
Green-winged teal. During the breeding season, male green-winged teals display vibrant green patches on their wings, which they use in elaborate courtship rituals to attract females. Their courtship displays involved intricate behaviors like wing flicking and vocalizations. Green-winged teals are social birds that often form flocks, especially during migration and wintering periods. They engage in various social interactions, such as foraging together, communicating vocally, and engaging in courtship displays.
Greater yellowlegs. Greater yellowlegs have a unique hunting technique called foot trembling. This behavior involves rapidly vibrating one foot in the water to disturb prey items, making it easier for the bird to catch them. It's a fascinating adaptation that showcases their resourcefulness in finding food in their wetland habitats. And it also is really cute when they do this because it looks like they're dancing.
The horned grebe. Unlike many other bird species, horned grebes build their nests floating on the water rather than on land. This adaptation helps protect their eggs from predators like raccoons and foxes. Horned grebes are skilled divers and can stay underwater for extended periods while foraging for food. They use their strong feet to propel themselves underwater in search of prey. While they're generally quiet birds, horned grebes can produce a variety of calls, including soft whistles and trills, especially during the breeding season, as part of their communication with their mate.
Pigeon guillemot. During the breeding season, these birds have striking red feet and a bright red mouth lining, which contrasts with their black and white plumage. They typically form monogamous pairs during the breeding season and work together to raise their young. While most seabirds are known for their flying skills in the air, pigeon guillemots exhibit a unique behavior they called flying underwater. They use their wings to propel themselves through the water in pursuit of prey, showcasing their adaptability and agility in their marine environment.
And the last one we'll cover today, look at this guy, double-crested cormorants. Double-crested cormorants are excellent divers and can stay underwater for several minutes while hunting for fish. Cormorants have a distinctive way of drying their wings after swimming. They spread them out in a crucifix position to absorb the sunlight and dry off. They have a specialized gland near the base of their tail called the I should have practiced this ahead of time. Uropygial gland, which produces an oily substance. Cormorants use this oil to coat their feathers, which helps with waterproofing and buoyancy while swimming underwater. That is really cool. Thank
Looks
you.
like Grandpa from Munsters.
He does.
Now that's all I'm going to see. This is really, really cool. And Peggy Oki said she loves the Bonaparte gulls. They have the cutest black spot
cool.
their eyes during non-breeding periods. So thanks, Peggy Oki, for that additional fact. Guys, thank you so much for hanging in there with us today. It's, you know, we just roll with it, right? I mean, it's been a tough week. Touch base. I know some folks are asking about the Miami Seaquarium. Still don't know. The last I heard is that they are transferring one of the dolphins to one of their other facilities, I believe, in the state of Florida. But again, I don't know what he's doing. But as far as I know, they were still given that termination notice, and the response was that they will fight that out in court, and the Dolphin Company will have their attorneys looking into it. But that deadline is, kind of approaching. So it's, I believe, the 20th is when they're supposed to be out of April. So we'll keep tabs on that. Keep praying, guys, for the animals, for the environment, for the earth. We just for those who kind of join later. Brandy said onyx. Yeah, onyx is a dolphin that they're talking about moving. And again, I don't have the specific details if they're moving to a park in Mexico, but I believe I saw somewhere that it's they'll be utilizing one of their other centers, but that's just one. It's just one dolphin that we've heard about. So I have no idea what's going on there. Kind of a somber mood with the loss of Spong, and keep tabs on that, guys, and let's see if they're able to get her 2-year-old calf back with the family, which is what we should be praying for and caring for, so that 2-year-old can make it. Anything anyone wants to say before we close today? We went really long, but I think it was important how we spent the beginning of the show today. Christina, anything you want to say before we close?
I do. I want to say that I think that the family has been spotted for the baby. I know I don't have any proof. It's just I've read more than one person saying that. So I mean, and then she started crying really loud, which is good because then they can hear her. So I just wanted to say that positive note to end off with, because let's hope for the best with that, and she'll be okay. I mean, it's been known to happen before for the family to take care of the orphan baby. So praying.
Thank you. And my dog is going nuts because I think someone's at my door. So I apologize for that. Alma, anything you want to say?
Just more than ever, it's important for us to keep up the pressure to breach the dams. Let's pass the SWIMS Act as well. Like, with these seaquariums being in the situations they are, the SWIMS Act would really help them have a better quality of life. It'd be great if the seaquarium couldn't export the dolphins back to Mexico. So SWIMS Act, Peggy Oki, let's go.
Yes, thanks for saying that. Peggy Oki, you guys go to her page. Go to Peggy's page, and there's a ton of information. Peggy, I'm sorry I didn't get all that stuff transferred over.
Citations.org.
Thank you. Thank you. Got some stuff up there. Perfect. Deborah? Anything from you, Deborah?
I'm not sure if you guys can hear me because the phone rang.
Anything from you, Deborah?
Just phone's not working. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me because
That's got an echo going. Stephanie?
Same. Just love and light to everybody. We'll get through this. Mwah.
And Deb Cruz.
Take a few moments out today.
Yeah.
Reach inside and find your healing power and put it out there. There's a lot of people and beings that need it right now.
That's true. That's true. All right, guys, we will see you next week. If you haven't seen my little birthday fundraiser, I chose Wild Orca, for the nonprofit that I'm supporting for birthday fundraiser. So go to my page if you want and donate. That's Giles and Eva with Wild Orca. So just appreciate everyone's support. There's so many organizations out there doing so much important work, and they're all valued and appreciated. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, guys. We're gonna close with the song again from Kyle, Harry, John, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yo.